Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be discussing my least favorite books of 2021, also known as worst books, but people get offended when you say worst. You might hear construction, I apologize. I'm actually only going to talk about 9 books. I usually do 10, but actually I only have 9 1/2 star books, and I feel bad putting a 3-star in because like a 3-star is like an okay book. So yes, so it's going to be 9 books and I'm going to go in order, the least worst to the worst. So the 9th worst book that I read in 2021 was Lore by Alexander Bracken. I read this for the Goodreads video. I will leave that link down below. And I did not enjoy it. I mean, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be in this video. But I give it a 2 stars, so it is obviously not the worst. And it wasn't too far off a 3. Actually, no, I think it was a bit off a 3. So I didn't have the best of feelings towards it. I thought it was just really poorly done overall. I actually ended up having a conversation with my friend Shay, and because we just happened to be reading it around the same time, and they actually ended up DNFing it. So I kind of just shared what the ending was, and we both were like, that sucks. So yeah, I did not enjoy it. The characters, I can't even remember the characters. Most of them were very flat, and they just felt like stand-ins just to get a plot moving. They didn't actually feel like they were part of the plot. Like you could put any person in there and the story would have been the same, and there was no depth to them whatsoever. The writing, there was nothing necessarily wrong with it, but I thought there was very sloppy world building, which I think is like really unfortunate because it's a Greek retelling in the present timeline. Like, and so like, we know Greek myths are thousands of years old, so like some of the world building is already done for you, and then like New York, it already exists. That is also done for you. So how can you mess up like the 25% of world building you need to do and make it so awful and confusing? So yeah, so I just didn't overall enjoy it. The ending was also just really unsatisfying for me. I thought that it was going to have maybe a ending where they take down this place because it is awful, it is misogynistic, it is just overall a terrible situation that everyone is in. That did not happen. And it just felt like there was misogyny in here for the sake of misogyny being in here. And it didn't add anything to the plot. It didn't, as I said, it wasn't a take down this regime kind of a story. And so it was just there and nothing came from it. So it was really, really awful to read about. Then the 8th worst book of the year is going to be Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. I have spoken about this in my disappointing reads. As I said, I didn't want to do too much repeating, but this was such a big disappointment to me because it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. It follows Ellery, and she lives in this very small town, and they are surrounded by these woods, and very strange things start happening in these woods, and I did not enjoy this. I really enjoyed Erin A. Craig's first book, A House of Salt and Sorrow. I gave it 5 stars when I read it, and the atmosphere, all of that, I just absolutely adored. But that was not the case for this one. This had the same problems that I did have with A House of Salt and Sorrow, because like there's this unnecessary romance. The characters aren't the most well developed, but I just loved the atmosphere and setting so much of House of Salt and Sorrow that I just gave it 5 stars. That might have been like a very nice 5-star, to be honest. Like I was in a really good mood. I don't think it would be 5-star if I reread it. If you read like House of Salt and Sorrow recently, I think you will enjoy this, because I have a feeling if I went back and reread House of Salt and Sorrow, I actually wouldn't like it. So I just don't think maybe Erin A. Craig is an author for me. It was just so boring. As I said, the characters I didn't care for. The relationship, there's an unnecessary romance. The plot, at the start, the plot and atmosphere and everything is really good, and I was really intrigued. And then for the next like 200 pages, nothing happens. No character development, no plot, no atmosphere, nothing. And I was so incredibly bored. And then right at the end, it kind of picks up again. So really disappointing, and one of my worst books of the year. Also a 2-star. And so then the 7th worst book of the year is going to be Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. So again, this was one that was included in my disappointing reads, and again, this was a 2-star book. And again, this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I love the Raven Cycle. I enjoyed the first book in the Dreamers trilogy. I didn't love it, and so I was really looking forward to see where the story would go. And this is a spin-off series to the Raven Cycle. It follows Ronan, and I can't even really tell you what happens in this, because like it felt like so much happened and yet nothing happened at all, because like it was constantly moving from place to place, but like nothing happened in the places that they were moving to or moving from. And so it was just constant movement but nothing happening. And I don't like what she's done with Ronan's character. I used to really enjoy him. I thought he was fascinating. I don't care about him anymore. And I also don't care about any of the other characters, really, the side characters, anything like that. There's a couple of characters who I'm kind of interested in, but like even then, barely. Not enough to keep me like fully invested in this story. I feel like Maggie Bottle had no idea where she was going with this story, and so this is just full filler trying to get to the place where she needs to be in order for the last book to happen. And as I said, such a big disappointment. I know her books aren't really the most plotful. Like, you know, The Raven Cycle, it's not heavy on the plot, it's very heavy on the atmosphere. But this series is different from that. It is not very heavy on the whimsy and atmosphere and all of that. And so she needs something to carry the story. She needs a plot, or she needs characters or something, and she just doesn't have it in here. So yeah, a big disappointment, a 2-star read. And so then the next book I'm going to talk about is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I read this actually in the same video that I read Small Favors in, which was a reading horror vlog, and so I got another 2-star on that, which was a very disappointing vlog, obviously. It was so boring. I don't understand why everyone loves it. I was looking through my friends' ratings and just so many 5 stars, so many 4 stars, and I just didn't get it. The story, it follows two girls in the 80s, and they are like best friends, and one of them believes the other is possessed, and it's about her trying to save her best friend. And I will give it that, like, the friendship between them was very heartfelt, and it was very beautiful, and it had some great moments, and that's probably why it isn't a 1 star, because I really adored some of the moments between the two friends. But other than that, I don't care about anything that happened in this book. I don't understand how it can be called horror. Not a single scary, creepy thing happened. And I was like, okay, when I kind of started, I was like, okay, so he's not like one of those like atmospheric creepy writers. That's fine. It's going to probably be like gory horror, which I was like a little unsure about. But then like that didn't happen either. Like nothing. There was like one scene which was like slightly nasty. But even then, it didn't bother me that much. Like, I was reading on my phone on SCRIBD. I was on the bus. I just kept scrolling. And I read that scene and I was like, ew. I just kept going. Like, it was not that disgusting or anything. I think Grady Hendrix also just doesn't have a very good writing style, to be honest. It was not very engaging. It was very kind of disjointed nearly, and I just didn't really care. The only saving factor was the friendship. So then number 5 is going to be A Winter's Promise by Christelle DeBose, and this one I was really kind of disappointed in this one because it is a series that Jade really likes. She didn't love the first one. I think she gave it 4 stars, but I think she loved the second and maybe the third one, and I know she DNF'd the 4th one. But I have very similar tastes usually, and so I picked it up for Polarthon, and I was just so bored throughout it. This was February, as I said, Polarthon, so I really can't remember a lot of details about it, but I did not enjoy it, is all I can remember. There are different arcs, and they all have their own gods, and they have their own powers connected to this. And so our main character, she can travel through mirrors, and she can get an object's history from touching it. And so really interesting power and all of this. And she is then sent away to a like polar cold arc for an arranged marriage. And I just did not like it. Like, there was not a lot of plot, I don't think. It did not keep me interested. I could not stand the characters. Ophelia, I think her name is, was so like, she's not like other girls. She wears glasses and she is studious in all of this. And I think the guy she marries is actually supposed to be her love interest, and they're supposed to, like, you know, they hate each other at first and then love each other. But like, there was no sign of that. Like, he was just downright horrible to her most of the way through this book, and like, I did not see anything redeeming about that. And his aunt was also horrible, and I was really hoping, like, the whole way through, Ophelia has this really cool power and it's quite unique to her, and the whole way I was waiting and waiting for her to get some agency of her own and go, you know what, I'm not gonna just sit around and do what they say. I'm going to, you know, use these powers I have and figure out what the hell is going on and how to save myself. And that did not happen. I kept waiting and waiting, and it never came, and it was such a big letdown. I was so sure it was going to happen, and it never did. My 4th worst book of 2021 was Escaping from Houdini by Kerry Maniscalco, and I would like to say I'm not mad about this. If anyone knows Stalking Jack the Ripper and Hunting Prince Dracula were my 2 worst books of last year. I despise them. I hate this series so much. Why are you still reading it, Rebecca? That is a good question. It's because I like to punish myself. So for the joke, last year I read Hunting Prince Dracula because it came up as a chance card on Becca's book CAWPILE. And I had no intention of finishing the series, and I was like, okay, I'm done now. And then Becca's book CAWPILE came around this year, and I was like, you know what? For the laugh, I'm going to put it down as one of my chance cards. Guess what came up on my chance card, guys? And so I read Escaping from Houdini by Kerry Maniscalco, and I gave it 2 stars. I am not going to talk too much about this because I've spoken about this series way more than I should for someone who really dislikes it. But I will say it was an improvement because I gave the first 2 books 1 star, and this book I was slightly more interested in. I did not like who it ended up being, but I was interested in the plot while it was happening, and that's good enough for me. So as I said, I just don't care about this series whatsoever. I am never interested in picking them up when I put them down. They are quick enough to get through though, I will give them that. The plot in this one, as I said, slightly better, yay for them. But my main issue with this whole series is, number 1, the mysteries are always like are quite predictable, because it's like, okay, so who is she trying to make sure we don't think about? And she does that in every single book. It's also, okay, so who would be the least obvious person? And that is who it is. And I have guessed all 3 of the people it is. And the worst thing about this is the characters. I absolutely despise them. Thomas Cresswell is the most annoying discount Sherlock there ever could be. I will say he was in this book slightly less, and so I probably enjoyed it more. But then there was the introduction to another mysterious man who was interested in Audrey Rose. Why? I don't know. Why would anyone be interested in her? But he's so different, except for the fact he is the exact same as Thomas Cresswell. And it's like, you could at least give him a different personality. But no, he is the exact same as Thomas, and it's supposed to be some weird love triangle. It's like, why? I don't like Thomas, but why should I ship her with someone who is the exact same as him, but hasn't actually been through anything with her? Why should I do that? And so that was, ugh. And then the other thing, like Audrey Rose, I do not like her because she is not like other girls, which I don't fully mind that trope as long as she doesn't hate other girls. But she does. She is so damn judgy to everyone around her, especially her cousin in this book, who I actually like her cousin as a character. I find her one of the most interesting characters, and she barely gets any page time ever. But she is so judgy. She's like, oh my god, why would Lisa be out doing this? When I'm like, Audrey, why are you out doing this? Like, such double standards, and it annoys me to no end. And the one last thing that really bothers me about this book is, why is it called Escaping from Houdini? Houdini is not even in this book. And like, I went on a whole rant about this. There is no reason for it to be called Escaping Houdini except for the fact to put a famous name on the title to get people interested. Because Houdini is a minor character. He's like a guest appearance. And the thing is, she got her dates completely wrong. And she's making like Houdini, you know, he's in love with this person and that person. I was like, no, Houdini was like completely in love with his wife. And yeah, and so they aged him down in this, and they changed his history completely. And it's like, and then he wasn't even in it. Like, okay, if she like changed things around and then had him as a main character or something, but he wasn't even in it. So she literally just changed this all around just so she could name it Escaping Houdini. So then my 3rd worst book of the year was going to be From Lukov with Love, which is a figure skating romance. And I read this because I read 3 books about figure skating. If you didn't know, I love figure skating. And by that, I mean, I absolutely despise figure skating because it is absolutely a corrupt sport, and they don't care about the female skaters and how young they are and how injured they are, and they don't give them time to recover. And as I said, really corrupt scores. I absolutely despise it, but also I love it. So I have actually since kind of stopped watching figure skating. I still look things up all the time, but yeah, so I'm trying to like steer clear. 2 of my favorite female skaters, the 2 best female skaters currently, the most well-rounded ones, both of them are missing out on the Beijing Olympics because of injuries, because their teams haven't cared in the past, and that frustrates me to no end, and it's very upsetting. And this is not about the book, but it needs to be said. So yeah, but that was one of the reasons why I really hated this book, I think, because I would be okay if it was a cute, fluffy romance of them. They're partners, they hate each other, but they have to learn to trust each other, which I would also like to point out. Why is it always pair skating? Ice dance is right there. Though I will say it made slightly more sense in this one because because like Ice Dance is so much more like passionate and like intimate, because like it's like ballroom dancing, like they have to be close, but it's always pairs. I'm like, why? But this one, it actually made sense because our main character, like, she was a single skater, so she can actually like do the jumps and all of that, so like makes sense. And just the way that this book was, because I was expecting a cute fluffy romance, and the romance didn't happen until like the last 10%, so it was a sports contemporary. And the thing is, if you're gonna write a sports contemporary, actually know anything about the sport. So I was completely ready to go in. I was like, okay, they're not gonna have their figure skating information right. That is okay, because I will just eat up a cute fluffy romance, enemies, lovers maybe, you know. And that was not the case, because the first, like, as I said, the first like 85% of the book is all about her and her figure skating journey and how tough it's been for her and all of this stuff. And they got so much information wrong. Why would you do this? Why would you make it, call it a romance, and then just make it majority about figure skating and then not do your research? It was so damn annoying. And yeah. And also the way Lukov, I don't understand how we're supposed to ship them, because he is absolutely horrible to her. He, like, there is so much fat phobia in this book, and like, it's not even like addressed, because obviously in figure skating, eating disorders and all of that, they are everywhere in it. But then there wasn't even a conversation about it. There was jokes about, oh, you're gaining weight there. And then it was never addressed as a bad thing. It was just happened constantly, and it was so damn frustrating. And I absolutely, I hated it.
I feel like I didn't fully explain myself here. Like, the information and stuff, it definitely reads like she went on Wikipedia and then like copy and pasted things. And then obviously like she changed things up, like instead of the ISU, it's the WSU and all of this. And just the way it was written, it really was copy and paste. And it's so, like, she was talking about like the technical score and the program component score, and how she, you know, she had the technical but she didn't have the program. And like literally anyone who actually knows anything about figure skating knows, if you have the technical score, they will give you the program component score anyway. And then there was also, at the very start of the book, she's struggling to land, like, I think it was like a triple toe or a triple salco or something. It was one of the like easy triples. And then like halfway through the book, she's landing like a quad toe, a jump that like 5 women, maybe, not even, can jump. What? Earlier in the book, she couldn't do a jump that most elite women can do. And now, like halfway through the book, she's doing a jump that no elite women can do. Like, what? As I said, the jokes about weight also really did get on my nerves, because so it was her family that did it as well as Ivan, and we find out that a joke that he has made, or him and his friends or whatever have made in the past, it did actually really affect her, and it's never addressed. I don't think I remember him even ever apologizing about it, and so yeah, it really annoyed me.
Those were all my 2-star books. So I have 2 1-star books, which isn't bad, and we're going to talk about them. So the second worst book of the year is going to be Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. Another romance. Oh my god, I hated this book. But also, I've blocked it out of my memory completely. I read it for trying to like warm my icy heart, reading romance for like the first time. I did that again. That's another February vlog. So again, not really clear. But oh my god, I hated this book. The character was the worst. She was the worst. There was a trope in here that I hated. The relationship, I just did not get it. There was no chemistry. There was absolutely nothing about this book that I enjoyed. I hated every second that I read it, but I powered through. The main reason for me hating this book, I mean, I didn't like the romance. I didn't like the tension. There was no tension between them. There was no romantic chemistry. I thought the way that their relationship developed was done very poorly. There was a plot twist trope thing that I absolutely hate. And then, but the main thing was Hazel. Oh my god, the worst character. Manic Pixie Dream Girl. I could not stand her. She is just the worst. She's so quirky, and like she walks up to someone and she just starts talking about boobs, because why not? And it's like, oh my god, you are at a workplace function. Stop! Anyway, I'm very passionate about that, as you can see. I hated it. I hated it. I blocked it out, and now I've started talking about it, and I'm just filled with rage. But yeah, I just did not have a good time with that. So yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it, to be 100% honest. It was not a good time. I really did not enjoy it. I don't see how it is so well loved. I don't get it. And yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. And so then we have one final book to talk about, and that is my absolute worst book of the year, and that is Wicked. I can't remember the full name. It's like The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West or something. Oh my god. I'm not even going to talk about it for long because I cannot remember a single thing about this. I absolutely despised it though. It was the worst thing, and there were so many lines in here that could have been like that, you know, that Reddit subreddit that is like r/men writing women. So many lines in here could go into that. So many lines. I don't understand how my absolute favorite musical of all time came from this. Again, I have a whole vlog for this because I read it when I was reading books based on musicals or musicals based on books. Because there's, like, again, this is another 1 star. So I can't even give you a synopsis because, like, the synopsis in my head is the one for, like, the Wicked musical. And that is not what happens in here. The only good parts of this book was Glinda and Elphaba's relationship. And that is, like, the tiniest portion of this. Like, so small. Like, it is, like, maybe 10% of the book. The rest is just absolutely horrendous. I absolutely hated it. The way that he wrote women was so horrible. It is just constantly talking about their boobs. The relationships made no sense. The plot was so nonsensical. It was so fast-paced at times and yet so boring at the same time. Like, how is that possible? How did you manage that? There are just some very weird things that happen, and it just... I genuinely can't remember a single thing that happened in here, except for like some really weird things. And overall, I really hated it. I hated the characters. I hated the world building. The world building was done very poorly. I did like that he tried occasionally to get in that kind of like whimsical Wizard of Oz, but most of the time he failed. The writing was done very poor, and as I said, the way that the women characters were written was absolutely horrendous. The plot, where, but also what? Like, I get what, like, it was trying to be like political and all of this, but it was just so poorly explained and so poorly developed. And yeah, and so overall it was so hard to get through this book, and I ended up having to like put on the audiobook and trying to speed through, and I couldn't. Even then I just wanted to turn it off. I just wanted to turn it off. I should have DNF'd this, but I don't DNF things. So yeah, I absolutely hated it. Which, speaking of DNFs, I did have one kind of DNF, but I'm going to come back to it, and that's The Serpent's Curse by Lisa Maxwell. I love the first book, and I also gave the second book a 4 stars, but I could not get into this book, so I'm going to give it another shot. But I didn't enjoy the first bit of it, so like I'll just like mention that as a little thing here. Those were the 9 books that I absolutely hated this year. So tell me what your least favorite book of the year was, and we can have a little conversation down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.